can see and hear the very first melody from Next Level.
I'm on the next.
And by the sound and by the view, you can infer that something is not right, and that's exactly the point. The very first note's not even C sharp. It's a quarter of the way sharper than a C sharp. And here's a C half sharp, a perfectly aligned C half sharp. That's microtonalism on a song with over 200 million views. And that's the future of music, and I'll explain you why.
On this video.
On the next level, yeah.
Huge sound effects, reverb and filters all along, and then filter on the synthesizer, of course. And that's the main riff, the main idea, the main phrase of the song.
I'm on the next.
So let's... No, 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 no. You can hear that this is microtonal. This is not like... It's, you can bend and try to find the notes, but it's very hard to do on a typical instrument with frets. It's easier to do in a fretless instrument, or your voice, which is also fretless. There's no fret here on your throat, thanks God. But let's analyze the first riff. It's on F sharp, actually F sharp blues scale. I'll play for you. This note, which happens on the fourth time it repeats, it's the diminished fifth degree. And if you know a bit of theory, you know that this interval is quite dangerous, especially if it's repeated. And guess what? The melody that they are singing is landing, or almost landing, on the diminished fifth interval, which is the C. This is the most tense sound, one of the most tense sounds you can have in music, along with the minor second. Those intervals are the most tense intervals you can have. So they are playing with minor seconds, actually microtonal minor seconds here, into the fifth and the diminished fifth, the C sharp and the C, but not actually C sharp, not even C. It's something in between, which is very weird and doesn't happen. And any song that I know of, probably it happens, but in no particular popular song like this one. And we have a F blues type of phrase that repeats, which is very, very comfortable. The blue note's not repeating all the time, and it's landing on F sharp. It's playing the minor third, and it's playing the perfect fourth, which is a rather stable interval. That's the riff. It's a very good riff. It's a riff that's addiction by the rhythmical inclination it has and by the notes it's playing. But with this melody, it's something very different from everything you've heard on music. That's really experimental, even for progressive metal standards, which I am coming from. So let's listen with the rest of the song. Let's see what happens after this.
I'm on the next level, yeah.
They are still playing with microphones. The filter on the riff, look.
광야로 걸어가 알아 내 홈그라운드 광야로 걸어가 알아 내 홈그라운드 위협에 맞서서 check it out, check it out, check it out.
This clock sound is also interesting rhythmically. It's like ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. There is a faster on the third time it repeats. So it's very important because it does generate those micro effects that the music is giving you, generate rhythmical unbalancing, and you feel out of place. You feel that you're not exactly on Earth. You feel like you are on a virtual reality, augmented reality or something else. It's really disturbing if you pay attention to those details one by one. On the left here, Also, those notes like those are perfect fifths from F sharp, so it's like it's very consonant. So they sound really like a resolution for all this mess that's happening on the best possible sense I can give you this word. Delay, perfect delay. And then there's that scream that goes along. I hope you noticed, because this scream is very addiction. It's also playing perfect fifths, but going down. And it's going to the right ear and to the left ear, generating more space, generating more atmospherical ambience to your listening experience. And this is phenomenal. The mixing is phenomenal, on point. Every element is placed well, and you can hear them if you pay attention, and they give the music more space to grow. That's important. Have space to grow even if there is a lot of things happening. Now the left ear. This is this part is incredible for the following reason. We have at least three scales. At least three scales because we don't know if we are playing with the major, natural major scale, or the mixolydian mode, and could be both because we don't have an harmonical background here. We have just the voices harmonize themselves with a pattern composed by three notes, a pattern that's repeated itself. So it's like this, perfect fourth, at least on my interpretation, it's perfect fourth, the major third, and the tonic. So that is a descending chromatical descendance, and we don't know if it's a major scale or a mixolydian mode. What we know is that if we look at the circle of fifths, those patterns represents darker movement into the circle of fifths. When we move counterclockwise in the circle of fifths, we have darker sound. And it is getting darker until it leads to the F sharp blues scale, which we were listening, F sharp minor blues scale, if we were listening the entire song. So that's absolutely remarkable. That's incredible. It's like a space of 7 seconds or something like this. And we have at least three scales being played. And it does never repeat again. And it's one of the most joyful elements of the song. Even if it's moving scale by scale, scale by scale, it still sounds like a resolution or a joyful moment. It doesn't sound like creating tension. When you move scales all around, you are probably trying to create tension to finally resolve in the F sharp blues. But the F sharp blues is kind of strange, at least when you listen for the first time, because of the diminished fifth interval. So that's very interesting. That's ambiguity. That's the most important thing. We don't know if it's mixolydian. We can play both scales if we're improvising here. We can play mixolydian mode and then natural major. I'll play mixolydian for you to see the effect. See the rhythmical variation here. This is very important. Again. Now, look. This was the Phrygian intention. That was a G note, a minor second apart, which was, along with the diminished fifth, the most tense interval we have. That's that Phrygian type of sound here. Almost at the transition is just a fine touch. And it really says to us, we aren't playing like the scale you thought we were playing. Now it's something really different. Now we are on other scale, and you never even notice it.
Watch me while I make it out. Watch me
and the microphone keeps.
Work it out.
Oh, you heard the the voice that was distorted down gave so much power in the last phrase, the last syllable.
Work it out, work it, work it, work it out.
And that is just, again, 4 scales, at least. E minor, and now G minor. This is other part that will never repeat itself, which means that's the only time you hear it, those 2 repetitions of these 4 chords, and it gives an harmonic movement, and it's also not really stable. We go to from E minor to G minor. If you know music theory, you know that when we go from E minor, the relative major is G major. So when we go to G major, from G major to G minor, we are actually going to the relative minor scale. And the relative minor is way darker than the natural major scale. It's like 4 degrees in the circle of fifths. It's way darker. The sound is very different. And how I know they are playing G minor afterwards, at least something like G minor, maybe some variation of G minor, but the girl sings this note, which is not part from E minor scale. So they are... So we are... So if you get the pentatonic, you go from, at least if you analyze just the first chord and the third chord, we are having E minor or G and then G minor. But there are more interpretations for this. The melody is really open. They are not defining the most important notes of the scales. So you can really think of this as 4 scales, or you can play only E minor and add this interval, this diminished fifth interval to the E minor scale, which will generate other things like the E Hungarian minor. You can play E Hungarian minor through this all because the notes were from the E Hungarian minor. So yeah, the E Hungarian minor may work over this. And Hungarian minor is a scale that's not used. At least just the experimental guys who use Hungarian minor. Hungarian minor is like, dear God, that's the darkest possible scale ever. Other interpretation is E minor and then G minor at the third chord of the part. So you can, when improvising, you can choose these scales. And the song doesn't give you a right answer because this is ambiguity. The song is trying to create ambiguity. The song is trying to create new sounds and new atmospheres for you to, when you listen to the song, it can sound different. It can sound different depending on what you're thinking at the moment. That's beyond what's happening in the music. So that's a concept that's very important, that you have to take notes. The fewer the chords and the melody you have, the more options you have to improvise. If you have just one chord, you can use tons of scales. If you have a progression with 5 chords and they are tonal in tonal music, like 1, 4, 6, 5, 4, 1, then you are stuck. You have to play the notes the chords are telling you to play. And that's not freedom. That's the opposite of freedom. And here we have the most possible freedom we can have in music. This is freedom at its best form. And now is the time that you give up. The BPM changed to 92 BPM. It was 109 and now it's 92 or something like this. It's like a 20% decrease in BPM. Now the song is lost. Now there's no analysis to be made. This is just beyond what I can explain to you. This is beyond. The G note on the bass is what makes this. That's... Look at the rhythm. Hanako. Then we go back to the first riff, which is other scale. The part that happened now at 90 BPM is unbelievable. We don't have chords at all. We have a keyboard, we have sound effects like the E note being played, but we have this minor third. We are thinking on E minor now. It's not F sharp minor anymore, it's mostly E minor. But it's repeating on the bass like this thing. The G note. And the G note that happened before, on the part that came before, the G note represented the G minor scale, the change between G major and the G minor, the parallel minor change. Now the G is being played and the scale is not actually being changed. But if you listen to the melody, the rapping melody, there is a melody. There is a melody that was made on purpose. It's not random notes. There are not random notes on the song. Any note's random. Any interval played here is random. They are exceptional vocalists. And everything was fought before. I am 100% sure about this. The little swing in the rapping part, it's almost like conical. Like they are using the syllabic way Korean works, the language, to make the swing feel and to go a little behind, but they are like going up in the melody, and this is so beautiful because sometimes they are playing certain notes that makes us think that they are on E minor, and then suddenly they play other notes with the microtonal intention that I talked about before, and then we think, well, maybe we are not on E minor anymore. But it keeps playing the same things, the same background, the same sound effects. It was made by a lot of sound effects. The chords like are constructed by sound effects, not like a keyboard playing a chord. The sound effects aligned plus the voice forms the chord, and it does change even using the chords that are diatonically according to E minor scale. So I can't hear this and tell you definitely we are on E minor. But if you improvise using E minor scale, you probably get the best notes, but you can use other intervals. You can use the major seventh. You can use the diminished fifth. You can use microtonalism. You can use the diminished scale. You can use tons of things that work very well along this rapping part that is unbelievably complex by creating bitonalism, probably. The effect of bitonalism, its ambiguity, is on purpose, and you can't really say what scale is being played here. That's beyond the limits of musical composition. That is genius. That's when less is more. Less is more when the less makes you think more possibilities, so you can play more things. You can think outside of the box because you don't have as many things to base your rational decisions. That's unbelievable. This G note on the bass is so drastic. Oh my god. And then again. That's the only part that repeats on the song. The main riff. F sharp blues. Harmonized microtones. Where? Rhythmically, it's so perfect. And as Adam Neely said, repetition legitimizes.
Repetition legitimizes.
Why this last part works as a resolution after the part that came before? Because it's the only part that repeats, of course, and for another reason. It goes from E minor to F sharp minor, and we know if you analyze the circle fifths that this is brighter. F sharp minor is brighter than E minor. The intervals are brighter. So it's like a resolution in the sense that we are, for the first time, going clockwise in the circle fifths. All the song we went counterclockwise in the circle fifths, but at the end we went clockwise on the circle fifths. At the end, the transition between the rapping part and the main part was a movement that was clockwise. And this is brighter. This sounds fulfilling. This sounds better. It's like going from E minor to E mixolydian, if you think of modes, but it's like F sharp minor because the F is repeating and the diminished fifth, it's F sharp blues tone is brighter than the E minor sound. So this song is fantastic. I know that there are musicians trying to experiment with things today, even at the hip hop world. So there are things that are incredible, but this one is phenomenal. The amount of views they have and the result they are giving and the amount of people that the young generation they are touching with these sounds is remarkable. And I'm convinced that this is the future of music. I've been listening to Jacob Collier for the past years, and he is the greatest genius in music today. He won 5 Grammys, but not because he won that he is good. He is good because he can make popular music, he can touch people, and experiment with microtonalism, polyrhythmic ideas, and everything in between. aespa do the same thing as Jacob did. And Yoo Yoon Jin, who is the main composer here, the Korean composer of SM Entertainment, always try to push the boundaries of music and always try to experiment. But now, this is reflecting more. Now it's working more. Now this is like on the top. And it gives me hope that music will be even bigger in the future. The amount of frequencies that we will notice when listening will be similar to our visual perception. When I wrote on the video the C and the B note, the C half sharp and the B half sharp note, they were all green because that's the color spectrum that's analogous to the notes. So the C note is a green towards blue and the B is the green towards yellow. And they were too different for you to notice with your eyes. But why can't you notice those two different frequencies with our ears? Because we are not really trained and because we don't have music that really pushes our limits. If we have more music like this, our perception as a species will grow, and that's as good as it can be. It does represent an evolutionary step into perception, and I think aespa is playing a big role here. That's why I love this group, and that's why I'm really looking forward to everything they release. I love those complex things, and I love to hear them. They resonate with me better than the traditional 4-5-6-1 that we always hear, and I lost the interest in music for a little while because of this, but now I'm totally revigorated and I'm totally looking forward to more music from them. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please click subscribe if you liked. You can comment anything you want. You can recommend me anything you want. You can criticize if you want. You can do anything you want. That's freedom, and I am in favor of freedom, okay? So subscribe to my channel, give a like, please, and see you next time. I hope I can see you next time.